All right, welcome back to part two with Chris Siebert. We were talking about sectionals and how jacked up it is. You were talking about travel. I mean, I know that was always their talk. The WIA was, well, we travel. We can't travel anywhere. I don't think have we heard that lately, that it's still like kind of the talk, or no?
I know that they want like a like a balance, like a equal balance of representation of the state at state, which I think that would be an argument that would be diminished with two pods. But I don't, it's really hard to separate the state with four sectionals as well.
Look
So
at the final. Look at the final four. It was De Pere,
exactly.
Arrowhead, and Marquette or Kettle Moraine.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that doesn't represent the state of Wisconsin in any way, shape, or form. You know?
yeah. There's no. It's hard to do. Who is it? The Giants tonight or the Niners? The world wants to know if putting you on the spot.
Well, the Niners are going to win, obviously, right? The Giants are awful.
10.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll give the points. Yeah, Niners will win by more than that.
I don't know.
I'm not good at gambling, by the way. We were awful in our gambling pods.
So that's why we're now the unintentional.
Yeah. Well, we were always the unintentional. It was just the spread and bread thing was just kind of what we named the podcast. That's all.
Got it.
Okay. So who's looking at this year's? So here's the thing. Here's what I think too is I think the WIA was like, hey, everyone, look at us. We split Pewaukee and Wisconsin Lutheran.
Yeah.
We saved the day. Everything's fine. And it's like, no, it still sucks. Like there's still glaring issues everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I the only way to really fix that, if you really want that perfect, to me, is to see the whole state one through whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't see that argument winning. And I don't know why, but just judge on how much movement's been made on other topics such as shot clock and stuff. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I just want to stick real quick. Who's the because you said it, you don't think it's hard to predict like what teams will do, which
Yeah.
I think I agree. But then like, if I look at last year, it was like Oshkosh North and Appleton East were supposed to be really, really good. And they were not that great. And then, so that sectional one went from like a strong one to like, okay, this is like one of the weakest ones. That's why I'm like, why can't you just separate them like in January when you kind of have a feel of what these teams are doing?
No, for sure. That definitely does make it easier, but I mean, I don't want to really give bulletin board material, or I can't think of a great example off the top of my head.
I forget that you got to kind of watch your mouth a little bit.
But to not go into this year and know, Milwaukee Marquette's going to be really good this year. I also want to pull up sectional, pairings, but we should know, and it's not, and we should be thinking about that stuff to project. Like,
Yeah.
if we're worried about state attendance, like,
Yep.
to me, like, I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer, but like people don't want to attend a tournament that they don't think is competitively fair.
Right.
And I think that I think we should be thinking about that to try to get not only like get our best players there. I think that sounds like a really bad way of saying it, but to give each of the best teams an equal like path to the tournament.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, De Pere was for sure tested last year, and I don't want to call out team again. I just think that I know De Pere went through a different sectional run than Kettle went through.
Yeah.
And Kettle was a team that was ready to knock them off. And played an awesome game. Like that was fun. And De Pere obviously is as good as any high school team that's gone through in a long time.
Yeah.
But that was a tired team when it was done.
Yeah.
Almost got him.
I don't care about giving anyone bulletin board material, so I'll say whatever I want, but you have to watch it. You have to watch it a little bit more than I do.
And at the end of the day, we all, if you want bulletin board material, we can all make it.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to speak incorrectly here without stuff in front of me.
That's fine. So do you know what your sectional 3 looks like or no?
Yeah. for the most part.
What are the strong teams coming back? That's not going to be bulletin unless you leave someone out, I
We have
guess.
basically all of the like Madison schools. And we lost. I think the Brookfields are gone.
Yeah, I was just, I looked at this when it first came out, and I'm looking at it again now. I totally forgot that the Brookfield, Central and East are in 4 now.
So we have all the Madisons and all like the Suburban and all the Big Eights, and then
Yep.
Kettle came in with us.
Yep.
And McGuanago.
Yeah, and then they moved Arrowhead out too.
Basically, it's a Big Eight conference tournament with us, Wanakee, Muskego, McGuanago. Muskego's got a really good team this year.
That's kind of what I asked. Like, what are I don't know the strong teams coming back.
I would say
on there, I don't know everyone who lost, like seniors and stuff like that.
Verona will be, or Wanakee will have a really good team. Sun Prairie West will have a really good team. Muskego will have a really good team. Middleton has quite a bit coming back.
Yeah.
Madison Memorial is going to be really good. East is always tough. Kettle, Moraine is really good. And if I were to, I love this. Me and my buddies always say, "Who's a team that's way better than anybody realizes?" And I know you got your Janesville Craig's going to be a really good high school basketball team this year.
Okay, good to know.
I know. I heard one of their best players just got hurt the other day, but
I don't know.
I'm sure he'll be back.
Oh, okay. All right. We will. Do we want to talk about? You mentioned it a little bit, but computer system. I'm assuming you're not completely thrilled with the computer system.
Yeah, I might be in the minority on this. I actually laugh at all the coaches that are complaining. I don't want to say I laugh at them, but I think it's funny how many people are so unhappy about the computer system. Jason McConnell, he coaches at Lake Mills. He's a super like analytic guy, like really smart guy. Like, I don't want to say he has the formula, but like he plugged it in and like he is so close on every sectional. Like,
oh really?
And yeah. And like the common like complaint is, oh, we just want to see the formula. We want to see how it's weighted. Like, to me, like, we see what is in there. We know you want to be seated high, beat teams and win a lot of games.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's not always how you prepare your team to be the best team. Last year, I'll tell you, like our schedule last year was perfectly built for us to be seated really high, but we also went into the first playoff game not prepared to beat that team. So it's changed the way we schedule for sure for this upcoming year. We're scheduling solely with the goal of winning our conference championship.
Okay, I obviously had that on the agenda, was how you schedule certain teams, from year to year.
Yeah, I would say that it's 100% with the goals and aspirations of being the best team we can be in March, but winning our conference championship. Last few years we've loved our non-conference schedule. But it also, the hard thing with building non-conferences, it's built out for a couple of years, and then we loved our non-conference schedule, and then we moved from Division II to Division I, and our non-conference schedule was really built for a Division II resume to us.
Makes sense.
But then, to be honest, it benefited us in the computer system because we were playing Division II teams that were winning a lot of games, but then not just physically prepared for what Brookfield East brought to us. So we've added Sussex and Racine Case to our non-conference schedule. And our conference is actually realigned, which will be good for us.
Okay.
In kind of getting, the Badger Conference used to be split East-West, and it's now split large-small.
Okay.
Which I think will be good for kind of everybody involved.
Okay. Has there been talk? I don't know if there has been. I thought there was, like, for the first year, but is there tweaks going on in the computer system again this year or no? Or is it?
I'm sure there is. The one thing that I don't know, if I think head-to-head wasn't valued enough, maybe.
Yep, I remember that last year. Yeah.
But other than that, like, we all should know what it is. If look at the 8 to 9 bullet points and use some deductive reasonings. If Kellett can figure out if his team's good at defense based off looking at Massey ratings, then he can figure out what the formula is based off reading some bullet points.
Do you look at Massey rankings at all or no?
I do look at Massey ratings. I do, but I don't use it for like to figure out if my team's good at certain things. We have our
You are just blasting Kellett.
I love Kellett. I love Kellett.
I don't know. Did I tell you my plan? My plan. I'm gonna have both you guys on at the end, right before the season starts.
Oh, great.
That'll be the last podcast before the actual season starts. We'll get you both you guys on at the same time.
Plenty of bulletin board material for everybody then.
Yeah, there you go. You guys will just feed off each other. Right, hang on a second.
No problem.
Sorry. Kid came home, dogs barking. Anything else on playoff stuff? I don't think I have anything else. If there's anything else you wanted
to. No, nothing crazy. I know the big thing this year was the like 6 Division I teams or whatever.
Yeah, they got voted down. What are your thoughts?
They got voted down. I mean, you can't ask my opinion because you can't ask any coach's opinion because any coach is going to answer selfishly in this situation. Yeah. But I'd love 2 extra Division I teams going to state, which is obviously, but like to me, like I think the answer is if you have an open session on Thursday, like why aren't we using it?
Yeah.
Which I know that there's bias behind it for me, but like let's find a way to get that session in, and like that you cannot tell me that's not drawing at least, more people into Madison on that Thursday.
Yeah, I had said it on the podcast after the I think it was either during or after. I'm just like, I'm sorry, like Division 5, you get one game, you get a championship game. Like some of that basketball is so awful. It just is. And it's like, we don't need to have 4. Why are there 4 D5 teams there? And then there's 4 D1 teams there. And the answer is, well, there's just as many D5 teams as there is D1. I don't care. It's awful basketball to watch. There should be a championship for D5, a championship for D4. And then 4 for D3, 4 games for D3 or 4 teams. Maybe you go 6 for D2 and then 6 for D1 if that's how the numbers work out, whatever. But there should be more D1 than there is D5.
I used to love watching some Randolph teams play back in the day, but no, I do wish that there was a couple more D1 schools that got the chance to go. But
yeah, it solves a little bit of the problem. But but you said it, like if there's an open session, why are they not using it? That makes the most sense for sure.
I know one of the pushbacks is why there's if we're going to go to more D1 schools and while there's less D1 teams than D5 teams or whatever.
Right. But because the basketball's better.
Fair. But I don't know why if there should have been, I don't understand what's wrong with the compromise of, okay, let's have the same amount of D1 teams as D5 teams or whatever. I'd be fine with that. Or to get 2 extra teams, I think would go a long way.
Yeah. My point is like, I just want better basketball. If I want like the majority of games I want to watch good basketball, and D5 and D4 are rare. I mean, there's the Randolphs. There's teams that'll end up being good. But more often than not, the D5 games are just not fun to watch, and they rarely feature a kid that's playing at the next level. They may score 50 like the one kid did. Is he playing anywhere? I don't know.
The Kenosha St. Joseph kid?
Yeah. Like
back. He's back.
Like I said on my podcast, can you imagine like Pav or Trimble or Max at that school? Like what they would do? I mean, you'd be averaging like 80 points a game. It'd be insane.
There's a lot of like other things that coaches can do at that level too. Like there's all sorts of different, you can try a lot more things to take those guys away too. Like, I don't know. It's enjoyable to watch every once in a while. It's good that I think it's good that it's the time that it's at though. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing they voted on was shot clock.
Yeah. I'm big fan of pro shot clock. I never honestly knew how much I wanted a shot clock or needed a shot clock or thought how much I cared about a shot clock until literally 2 days into my freshman year. And I was like, oh, this is basketball, freshman year of college. And I'm like, this is enjoyable. This is fun. And that's what, like, I love my high school coach, like, but we were holding for one shot under, I'm telling you, 90 seconds each quarter. Each quarter. And in an 8-minute quarter game, we're playing, every game's 40 to 35, but we're killing the last 2 minutes each quarter. And that's another reason why I don't want to go quarters and halves, is so much more flow and can play so much more guys. But no, I think the shot clock completely changes the game. And it'll show a lot about coaching on both sides. One of my big gripes is a lot of people say, "Oh, everybody will run ball screen or everybody will run this." Okay, who's set? If no, they won't. First of all, and
Yeah.
if you really want to say that, okay, what kind of ball screen you setting? Who's setting it?
Right.
What kind of guy you bringing into the ball screen? Are you bringing in a guard? Where's the ball screen going to be? Are you rolling it? Are you flipping it? Are you slipping it? Are you ghosting it? Are you got millions and millions of options on how you want to play late shot clock. And I think it would just show so much more about every team and every coach and every program and make the game more fun for kids.
Yeah. And that's what I'd said previous too, is like, I think a lot of these coaches that don't want it are like terrified that you have to coach. Like you have to coach a lot more if there's a 30-second shot clock, like, or 35, whatever it may be. Like there's
Definitely.
a lot that gets involved in it,
Definitely. I mean, when there's 10 or whatever on the clock, your kid's got to have a plan, both offensively and defensively. Like, okay, how are we guarding this? How are we guarding this if the other team doesn't look like they have a plan? Like, when can you just run and double?
Yeah.
I mean, there's infinite amount of things that can taught and learned with a shot clock.
Do you know a lot of coaches that are against the shot clock?
I think one of the best coaches in the state, a guy you should have on the podcast named Todd Nessheim, is anti-shot clock. He's won a state championship. And you asked about the hardest players to prepare for. Todd Nessheim is, as a coach, if you ask any Badger conference coach, nobody likes playing against him. Does different stuff defensively than anybody. Offensively, his team space in ways that like it makes it really hard for you to like impact what they're going to run. They get to run whatever they want to run. They get the ball to where they want to get, but he is an anti-shot clock guy.
Where does he coach?
Mount Horeb.
Okay. So their offensive possessions, are they long drawn out ones then?
Not necessarily. Like they're playing, not necessarily. Like he changes with his team and, but at the same time, I know he's anti-shot clock.
You don't have to put words into his mouth, but do you know why? Do you want to say why he is? I mean, because I'm assuming you guys have had discussions about it. Like, what is his
Honestly, it's a good question. Why? I hate to put him on blast because he's not Kellett. No, Nessheim is a guy I can put on blast. But to me, like he doesn't have great reasoning, but I'm also so biased anytime that we're debating about it.
Yeah.
But I know he's anti-shot clock and we kind of joke about that.
I'm not saying this is why, but how old of a guy is he?
You're gonna get me in trouble here.
Okay, then I shouldn't have asked that.
I would honestly guess he's in his late 40s.
Okay. So he's not, I mean, I'm 46. Like I would think to myself, anyone that's over 50s, when you start hitting the guys are like, nope, we do not want a shot clock. It's, like anyone under 50 is kind of like, we want to see up tempo, fast, run and gun, stuff like that.
The one thing he said to me one time is he thinks that the better team will win every time with a shot clock, which I just like couldn't disagree with more.
He thinks with a shot clock the best team will win, or without? He said
with a shot clock, the better team will win every time, which I just don't agree with, because there's a lot of things you could do to make a better team uncomfortable with a shot clock. And if it's a team that does play fast, I don't think the shot clock impacts teams negative. Like I think you can get comfortable with it no matter what.
So then is the point on that is that if he's playing a team that he knows is better than him, he wouldn't have a chance. That's why he doesn't want a shot clock.
He's willing. Again, I think he's one of the best coaches.
Yeah.
He is a coach that's willing to slow people down though. And he is a coach that's willing to like control tempo.
Okay. Well, shit, Kellett did in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I go four corners. I mean, I've done it. I mean, I think another one of the best coaches, Steve Hicklin, who learned from Cerrone at Sussex. They have a four corner offense he's been running for 10 plus years. Hicklin at Lake Mills gave Pewaukee a really good game a couple years ago when State was at up in Oshkosh when they were Division 2 going four corners the entire game. And I hate to say that it's hard to guard, but what's hard to guard is spacing. And teams that create space within their offense are the hardest ones to guard. And I hate to say that four corners provides pretty good space, but if you're not ready to like really guard and the other team's got guards that can handle the ball, there's a lot of space on the floor.
Yeah. I come from a spot that I'm not coming from a coach's mentality. I'm coaching. I'm coming from just what do I want to watch? What do I want to see in the basketball court? And like
Totally.
that, I remember going to the East West game at Brown County Arena. I used to babysit Evan Sweeney, played at Appleton West. And I remember went and watched their game, and it was, I think, 4-2 at the end of the first quarter. And I'm like, why did I come to this? Like, why am I watching this garbage? So
Yeah.
I come from an entertainment value, I get the coaching. Like, it's just not fun to watch most of the time.
I don't disagree. Um, I don't disagree, but there's definitely some strategy there.
Yeah. You mentioned it a little bit, and because I saw it was picking, I don't know if it was picking up steam, but I know it was on the table again. But going back to quarters, do you think that's something that's going to happen, or where I don't know exactly where they're at in that process?
I'm worried about that. Honestly, I would be really, really against it. For high school basketball, for like the 4 extra minutes is one thing, and I don't even want to say this, like this is another thing that but like as a high school coach, like there's some responsibility to get some kids in the game. We all have, in the FVA, how many kids go to those high schools? Like, you can't tell me there's only 6 kids that deserve to play in a varsity basketball game. But if we go to quarters, we can coach through a varsity basketball game playing 6, 7 guys with
Yeah.
8-minute quarters easily.
Yeah.
But if you play 18-minute halves, there's some strategic advantage. There comes some difficulties in trying to run a short bench. To me, it's a good way to get a few extra kids in the game. It's a good way to get 4 extra minutes of play. It's a good way to increase flow. It's a good way to get an extra timeout. It's a good way to increase strategy. It's a good way to take away that last possession of the hold for one situation, 2 extra times per game. There's countless advantages of halftime or of halves versus quarters.
How did that get brought up again, anyways?
So I'm worried about it because the NFHS rules are 8-minute quarters, and for
Okay.
the WIA to have NFHS or to have voting rights on NFHS
Yep.
rules, we have to abide by NFHS rules.
Okay. When I can't remember, when did it go back? When did it go to halves, anyways, from quarters?
It's a great question. Again, I would say 2016. I could be
I was going to
wrong
say
here.
it's within the last 10 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could be wrong here. 2015, 2016. Because it might have happened while I was in college, but I wasn't coaching high school hoops then.
Is it something that's on the table, not for this year, but for like next year?
I think it's off the table now for this year. We're good with halves for at least another year.
Okay. Jeez, that's crazy. Taking away the 4 minutes is just insane to me. That's a large
Yeah,
chunk.
it is a large chunk.
So what
it
if
is.
what if you went to 9-minute quarters?
Then you don't have
Oh, I
NFHS
suppose. Okay.
rules.
Got
So
it.
the motivation is the voting rights.
Okay.
So if they do it, it would be losing 4 minutes. And I would say public, I would play 1 to 2 less players per game.
Yeah. What That's a good question. I don't have this on the agenda, but just because you brought it up a little bit, what is your normal roster size? Do you have like a strict, like I won't go past 15, or I'll just keep whatever? Like, I think that's really interesting. Like Jameson played basketball, and they had like 18 kids in the team, and
Yeah,
Lucky always kept us all the kids. And it's like, and then there's some coaches like, I don't go past 15. There's cuts, everyone has a different view on that.
we definitely have to cut, which is hard to do. And the longer you get there, the harder it gets because kids have done everything everything right to deserve to be on that roster. But it also at a certain point becomes impossible. There is a number that I'd love to be at. I'd love to be at 15, but I've gone over that number for last few years since we've gotten good numbers in the program.
Okay.
My athletic director jokes about our bench looking like the movie 27 Dresses, which I haven't even really seen, but it's like all these bridesmaids lined up over and over and over and over. The WIA rule there's a bench personnel rule for coaches plus team of 22. So I roster as much. I won't go over the number that makes me take a jersey away from a kid in the playoffs. So
Sure.
I've gone up to 17 the last few years.
Okay.
It makes it hard for practices, and I think it's definitely, you got to be intentional about trying to create a positive experience for everybody. And definitely got to create more like VR opportunities and some other things throughout the year. It's definitely easier with 15 to 16, but if there's 17 that deserve to be on that roster, we kind of go, we're willing to go up to there.
So you have 5 guys in the coaching staff.
5 coaches.
So
5.
does the roster requirement and roster or size change when playoffs hit?
So basically, I don't think so. No, WIA.
I thought you could only dress a
but
certain amount of kids in the playoffs.
you can only dress 18.
Okay.
18 is the most you can do, but
Okay.
you're also allowed. So if I dress an 18th, I would have to sit a coach.
Okay.
I just don't really want to do that.
Got it. All right. That's I knew it came into play with Kimberly like years ago because we had so many coaches and players. So all right. There's any other rule changes there besides shot clock and then the quarters and halves. I think that was it, wasn't it? And then obviously the playoffs, the number of teams. I think the main ones.
So rule change to college basketball this year, which I'm hoping trickles down a little bit.
What's that?
Well, the I'm not a ref guy. I want that on. I want that first off. Kellett's a huge.
We're gonna talk to refs. We're gonna talk about refs at some point here.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay. Well, Kellett, you and Kellett are huge ref guys.
What do you mean by huge ref guys?
Kellett's on the refs. Me and my unintentional friends have an over under for how quickly you've actually good work. You cashed the over. You haven't said flopping yet. We're how far?
It was late in the agenda.
Yeah, we're a long way in. No flopping mentioned, but no, we have the over under on how quickly until we talk about refs and flopping. But
it's on the agenda. You should have known it was because it's in later. I did say it wasn't in order, but
I wasn't allowed to play this round. But no, you did well. But Kellett, I even forgot my kind of train of thought.
Well, we were talking about, you said there was a college rule change.
Oh yeah, the college rule. My staff joked about, we called 2023 the year of the charge. You call it flopping. I just call it every single block charge 50-50 went charge last year. I kind of thought. And basically college is changing. I don't want to speak incorrectly on like and misguide the rule, but basically if I could wrap it up in simplest terms, I was told if last year, everything was 60-40 charge block, it's now 40-60 the other way, based off of when the offensive player gathers more than the defensive player now.
Okay.
So the refs are being taught to watch the offensive player more than they used to, than the defensive, whether or not the defensive player set.
So we're going to see more. So we're going to see more blocks, is what you're saying.
We're going to see more blocks on 50-50s that were charges in the past at college. And to me, I hope that has like a natural trickle down effect in just the way the game is officiated.
Yeah, and well, maybe if those officials are watching college basketball, then they'll see, maybe obviously seeing it, but
totally. And honestly, there is a natural trickle down effect in officiating. I mean, high school coaches and nothing in the rule, like verticality, for example, that's an NBA concept that high school teams and high school refs are officiating. And that's not something that you go into a lot of high school gyms around the state. You're not going to find kids working on verticality, but most officials understand that concept.
Yeah.
From watching higher levels of basketball.
I don't, it's, I know I've had people tell me like, dude, you got to stop with the flopping. You got to stop talking about the flopping. I'm like, I'll stop with the flopping when the flopping stops. I'm going to keep talking about it if it keeps happening. And Kellett's like, I think, didn't Kellett say he would just take away charges altogether?
Yeah, I'm a ban the charge guy too. That's kind of been a movement lately on Twitter. So I believe in offensive fouls, if that makes sense. So like if you're driving and the primary defender guarding you takes it in the chest, goes down, offensive foul. If I get past you or past somebody and there's a help defender, like everything about teaching basketball, it's about preventing the other team from scoring and doing athletic things to, prevent teams from getting shots at the rim. Now I'm at the opportunity when we have the chance to make the funnest play for everyone to watch, like a contest at the rim. I'm just going to stand in front of you and fall over. That's not how we should be doing things. So I'm team ban the charge.
Okay, that's what I hate. That's the flopping stuff that I hate. That's
Yeah.
the stuff that I complain about with Nina and all that stuff. Is
I wish teams were
falling.
contesting up top for sure, but there is a skill to taking charges for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just hate it when the kids are just like, there's no contact and they just go down.
Yeah,
And they're
it's
just
tough.
trying to manipulate the officials. That's what I hate.
That's tough. Well, to me, like one way that I wish that was, I wish that flops. I wish that a flop was never rewarded with a no call. Like I wish that it was a block. Like
Right.
for example,
Great.
post up, guy drops the chair, goes down, but the post player is like under control enough to like get a shot off, but he like kind of lost his balance, but you don't want to call a charge. Like that's a block. Like like any people falling around your feet is a dangerous play
Yep.
and should be discouraged.
Yep.
So to me, when you flop incorrectly, like I think you should be called for a foul because you've impacted the offensive player for sure.
See, we're on the same page. We completely agree on flopping.
Yeah.
I just do it a little more with more vulgarity and
Yeah. I'm just team. I don't want to be anti-flop. I want to be team block and anti-charge, if that makes sense.
okay. We got about
My other thing on reffing is like, and I again, I want to be known as team ref. Sometimes bothers me that on the perimeter, like, and this is more of an NBA problem, but like, you can't touch people on the perimeter, but around the basket, they're playing football with guys
right. Yep.
out and like and rebounding. And like as a coach, it's almost like teaching your physicality based off of where you are on the court,
Yeah.
which is great. How physically can you guard the ball? Okay. Different based off of where you're at on the court.
Yeah.
And I think the game's gone so guard heavy, partially due to how physically you can guard post players.
Yeah.
Um,
It's incredible, just like watching at the Holy Cross tournament, like just how physical it is there. I mean, our first game, we didn't get one call in the entire first half. I mean, and the press were like, "Oh, these young kids will teach them right now how to be men," and it's like, you can call something, but it's like it's just out of hand at some points.
Totally, but at the same time, one of the first thing that those high school kids are going to learn when they get to college is like learning how to like I don't even want to say foul without like play physically without making it look like a foul, and vice versa, driving under control to the point where like that little bump that like isn't going to be called a foul doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
Whereas in high school, just that last contest is just a little bit different. And the Holy Cross, there's no better place to show it to and then there. It's physical up there. Hard to score around the rim there.
It is big time. You kind of took the agenda just talking about rules. Any other because Kellen, here's a question I had on here. Any rules that you see like officials can like consistently get wrong?
I mean, I would say block charge, honestly. That's the one that drives me nuts.
So more something that's less subjective, because that's kind of subjective, but like,
all right. I'll give you a clear cut. I wish it was written in the rules this way, but it's also block charge related. Ball goes into the post, and you want to take a charge on the guy that's banging into you in the post. If someone flops on that first dribble, the first hit, no charge bothers me more than when a ref gives a guy a charge on the first hit in the post. If the guy absorbs one bang and does the exact same thing on the second, I'm with calling that a charge. Like if you go 1, 2 trying to bully a guy, I'm with calling that a charge. But if it's just one, I know you can't write it in the rules. You can't try to run block a guy twice in a row, but that's what it is. Some guys.
I was gonna say, couldn't you say, well, you absorbed it once, why can't you absorb it a second time?
I mean, at some point, Lauren, like at some point it gets impossible to withstand your ground too.
That stuff's always predictable though. It always happens, right? You'll see one and then you're like, oh, the next one, the guy's going down. He's gonna flop.
One guy's going down, it's a charge.
Yeah, for sure.
And it should be. But if it's on the first one, Giannis gets called on it all the time in the post. I hate first first contact post charges.
That's very specific.
Withstand one bump.
That's very specific.
If you withstand one bump and then you take the second one in the sternum, fine. Anywhere other than this, the chest, sternum, block. I'm team block.
Do you oh, just so you know, we got about 4 minutes left. Do you have a quick AAU story or no? Or not? No big deal if you don't. I mean,
Quick AAU story. Yeah, I can.
Kellett ended with his hero one, whatever.
I can tie one into. So I talked about Max and kind of what he said to Connor Sejan.
Yeah.
You know, some of my favorite memories are just like moments of kids like saying things like, you know, kind of talking trash to each other. But I don't like trash talk. I'm not a trash talk fan, but when it's done really well, I remember it.
Yeah.
Like Max saying, "Oh, Super Pool," huh? Like that. I think that was well done. I'll never forget my 17U year. And again, really grateful for the experience of playing with those guys, but like I was not a central piece by any means. We were playing in a really, really big tournament, and beat some teams that we had no business beating. And got into the semifinal game where, you know, Josh Gasser, Kyle Kelm, Chip Rank, Ben Avercamp, all the like good players are on our team. And they have Reeves Nelson going to UCLA, Kendall Williams going, that was, I think, Mountain West Player of the Year at New Mexico, Elijah Johnson, who went to Kansas, Tyler Honeycutt went to UCLA. They were like, it was a tough game.
Yeah.
You know, game is like Sunday. I don't remember the exact time. Game starts. We go up like 10-2. But the problem is all of our best players are on the same flight. Josh Gasser, Kyle Kelm, Chip Rank. We go up 10-2, and they got to leave the gym to catch their flight. And this is in front of, if we win, we're in the championship. In the championship, they had Abdul Ghadi, who was a McDonald's All-American, Avery Bradley, who was a McDonald's All-American, longtime NBA player. So that was who we would have played in the championship. So we have this lead or whatever, and these guys have to go get on the plane or whatever and leave. In come me, another guy, Garrett Schwartz, who's like who married my cousin I mentioned earlier. And then another guy who a lot of listeners of this podcast are going to love this guy, Derek Brott, awesome high school basketball player, legend, one of my good friends. But so us three sub in together, and Reeves Nelson looks at Ben Avercamp when we three sub in, and he's like, "What's going on?" Because he saw all our guys like putting on a backpack, and like takes one look at kind of me and Garrett. And Garrett, like for anybody, he was a very good player, but he did not pass the proverbial eye test, so to speak. And Reeves Nelson, who went to UCLA, really good high school player, looks at Ben Avercamp, looks at us and goes, "Looks like you should have got on that plane too," or something, something like that. Proceeds to just blow us out. But the tournament run that we put together had us on a court that, you know, Lute Olson, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, like Bill Self, you know, who's who watching that game. Lifetime memory. And we'll never forget Reeves Nelson kind of putting Garrett and I in our place, reminding us that we had no business being on the court with him.
Wow, that's a great story. Why the hell would you book a flight that had any kind of conflict?
Yeah, you know, it's hard. You know, we didn't think we were going that far either. I don't think.
Well, that's a great story to end on. All right. I think we got through everything for the most part. So
no, yeah, look forward to previewing the season and with old Kellett and settling all that beef. I'm happy that we were square away the Wise Road thing.
Yeah, for sure. When's your first game?
November 28th, Stoughton. They're gonna be really good.
All right. So we'll get you and Kellett on mid-November, most likely.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. Enjoyed it. This has been Over and Back. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, it was fun.